Well. What do we have here tonight, folks? The Llama Drama Podcast. The return of the one and only. The podcast run by me, Llama's 170. And tonight, we're going to be talking about something pretty darn fun, if I do say so myself. Today, the question for this Llama Drama Podcast is Tears of the Kingdom any good? Welcome to the Llama Drama Podcast, episode 10. It's been a few weeks. I know. Been taking a break since the end of school and finally being able to create the next episode of the podcast, with work and everything, As a little update on my life, since the last podcast, I finished the last day of school, took the last final exam of my bachelor's degree, and I start student teaching in the fall at a local high school. Claps all around. Let's go, Llama's 170, I'm working part-time at a local pizzeria, delivering food. Plans for the upcoming summer. Now, let's talk about that real quick. So it's a little bit less about what I, is caught up. Now you guys know everything you need to know about the Llama's 170, But it's future, this summer. Let's talk about that. Plans for the upcoming summer. I will set my sights on podcasting every 2 weeks. This is more to help me not burn out on it mostly, but it's also to help produce higher quality podcasts as well. The every single week thing, it was just like, I was coming up with things at the last minute, and I kind of wanted to, make everything good. So there we go. We got that. And hopefully that means it's better for you, the listener. This podcast is going to be all about the new Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Is this going to be a $70 DLC put out by a greedy corporation wanting to wring every last dollar from the average consumer? Or is it the second coming of one of the best video games ever made? Let's jump into the discussion. Picture this. It was a cold March. I had pre-ordered my Switch and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 6 months in advance. I was there 2 hours early, ready to pick up my Switch, midnight exactly. They hand me my plastic bag, trash bag, filled with all of my goodies, and I went home and I played Zelda for 6 hours. Fell asleep at 7 a.m. Now, on Thursday, May 11th, 2023, I went to claim my copy of Tears of the Kingdom. Raining, pouring out, just like the tears were raining, pouring in the game. I pre-ordered the game, just like I did Breath of the Wild, and went to the midnight release for both. It was the first midnight release since I had been to Breath of the Wild, in fact, so it was nice to do it once again. I hadn't done it since then. And Breath of the Wild was the third to last game I pre-ordered. Cyberpunk 2077 was the second to last, and Tears of the Kingdom was the most recent. Those are my last 3 games I pre-ordered. There were about 100 people there when I finally got my copy. It took forever. Maybe even more. I think they had over 150 people coming in that night to pick up their copies. I got a scarf in a game of trivia. We can show that right here. If I can reach it. Here we go. We got the scarf of Link himself. I haven't even opened this up yet. I was saving it for the podcast. Here we go. Oh, it's actually a pretty nice scarf. There we go. Link's scarf, I guess. I think this is what he wears over his arm. Won that by answering that he was a wolf in Twilight Princess. After getting my scarf, my copy, and a new Pro controller, because my Smash Bros. Pro controller, I spilled a drink on it and it was a little sticky. So, I haven't cleaned that out yet. So I was just like, dealing with it, you know what I'm saying? I went home and played it for the rest of the night. Before I played it, it was like nearly 6 years since I played Breath of the Wild. Now it's probably like 5 to 6 years, but it's still a long time since I played Breath of the Wild. So going into this, I am basically playing it blind. I don't remember a single damn thing about this game, except like some very sparse details here and there. and like how everything worked. And then I think that's really good because everything works differently now. So it was good to not know what everything was going into the game. I thought that was really good. So here's my thoughts on the game. Remember, this is going to be as spoiler free as I can, mostly talking about things that are basic knowledge of the game. So my thoughts on the opening. The opening sequence was pretty good. I would say better than Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild, and I'd say that mostly because you already know everything that happened in Breath of the Wild, probably. If you're playing Breath of the Wild first, then playing this game. I already knew everything that happened, so you get a lot more backstory this time, and then it's introducing you to all these new things. So it's like I think that's a lot better than like just introducing you. All you knew is in the Breath of the Wild is it was a Zelda game, and then even knowing that it wasn't, you did not know anything going into that game. I think it set it up really well. I mean, it's a Zelda game, so I mean, it's not going to be the best story ever made, but I think they did a pretty good job with it. I think they I mean, it's a basic Zelda story. Link has to go find Zelda. I mean, that has to be in the game, or else it's not a Zelda game. And they put that in there, and I think they did a really good job of it. And the power disparity at the beginning of the game, how they showed you between you and Ganon was phenomenal. I thought that was amazing. Because before it was like you were asleep for like 1,000 years, who knows, 100 years or whatever, and that's how you got super weak. But now it's like, oh, you got your ass kicked, and that's how you're weak now. I thought that was pretty cool, and shows you everything that happened and everything. It was pretty cool. Getting to the Sky Islands, so you wake up in the island or whatever, kind of similar to Breath of the Wild. I thought it was pretty funny that how it was like almost the exact same thing. You almost died, you woke up sometime later. There's some voice telling you to do something. You know, it's very similar opening. And I what can you do though? I don't know how else I would have opened it, but I understand where they were coming from. Um, I wanted to make sure my mic was on. My mic's on and everything good. Uh, the starting island, I preferred the Great Plateau. The Great Plateau was so nice. I think the starting zone of Tears of the Kingdom was hard to navigate, but hey, that means it just made it so you had like a lot more time spent on it. I mean, I spent like maybe 30 minutes on the Great Plateau. It took me like 2 hours to get through the first Sky Island, so that was super fun. And what I liked too more is in Breath of the Wild, they pretty much were just like, "Fuck you! You don't get any more story after that. You have to go out and find it." Tears of the Kingdom, they made you go through a little bit more of the story, which I appreciated. You didn't have to. You don't have to do any of the story. You could just jumped off and you could have done your own thing. But pretty much to do anything else, you had to do these things anyway, so it was good to do them. The new items are goofy as hell. The new abilities are goofy as hell. Once you get used to them, though, very, very good. I would say that the new abilities are better. I do miss that we don't have the bombs and we have to pick up bombs and shit now. That's really annoying. But other than, I wish we had a bomb ability. Otherwise, I think everything's way better. And the shit things that people are making online are fucking hilarious. The mechas, like the trapping. I saw like the torturing of the Koroks. Everything hilarious. And it's like, in a modern era, you kind of need these things where your game does really good on social media and stuff as well for it to be like popular and like do more than just like that standard like selling. If people see that people are having a shit ton of fun in the game, they're gonna go out and buy it. I thought that was really good. Let's see. Oh yeah. So one of the new abilities is you go through the ceiling, and they showed this in one of the presentations, so it's not a spoiler. So one of your new abilities is you go through the ceiling. Holy shit! It's a cool ability, but I forget about it all the time. It took me like 2 hours. It took me an hour to get up to the first dungeon because I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get up there. And I was like, oh, I got up to it. Oh fuck! I just pressed this, and boom, I'm up there. Could have taken 5 seconds, but the transfer, the going between zones. So there's the middle, upper, and lower parts were the caves, the sky, and the main body. And going between them, there's no loading screen and everything unless you fast travel. It's actually really cool how everything's so seamless in this game and everything looks so cool. I mean, they basically 2.5 times the size of the game. and they changed the majority of the overworld too. So it's like even if you just beat Breath of the Wild, you 100%ed it. Everything is different in this game. Almost everything is different, and it's just like, I mean, sure, you'll remember a few key places where everything was, but then most of the stuff's different. Um, let's see. Um, then going back to the main story thing, they pretty much on Breath of the Wild, they pretty much make it so you can't leave the Great Plateau until you get your glider, right. You leave the main area before you get your glider this time. So if you literally wanted to, you could go around it. You could start killing everything you wanted if you really wanted to. You're free to do anything. But I was like, I don't have my glider yet. I know you get it, and like I didn't have like a few like the picture taking thing and stuff like that. So I was like, let me just go do the main story for a bit. And they fill you in on what's been happening and everything, and then they give you some stuff. And I thought that was way better. Then eventually you get your glider, and then you get to see the new towers are goofy as hell. But I understand why they would do it this way, because they're like, oh, we have to like see everything that's up above. These towers wouldn't be able to see it. So I guess I understand, Um, the way you get your hearts and stamina is like removing that blight that Ganon like ripped into you at the beginning of the game. And like super like story wise and like in my immersion in the game, it just feels so cool. Instead of Link just getting like a heart and a stamina piece, he's removing these llama drama. He's removing these things that Ganon placed into him, and I think that's so cool. And he was sick and he's getting better. We're talking about Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom right now. Let's see what else. Now, moving into like they push you to do things in the first one. They don't really tell you to do any of them in a particular order. This one, they kind of do handhold you a little bit. They tell you to go do a specific dungeon first. You absolutely don't have to do it, but it does set you up for other side quests and stuff in the game. So I would recommend doing it. But of course, like you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. I didn't go for it immediately either. I went around and I did like 20 shrines. Got like 5 hearts, and then I went and did it. Got some stamina and shit. But otherwise, it was, I mean, just about what you can expect, right? The dungeon was actually really cool. But let's see. Let's talk about the shrines first, since I mentioned those. The shrines are fun. I think I would say they are better than the Breath of the Wild shrines. But I have to do them all. Let's see. I have 50 shrines, 50 something shrines done at the moment, and there were 100 and like low hundreds, like 110, 100 and below 110 ish shrines in the first game. And so I've done probably a little less than half of this one. I think there's more in this one. So I've done less than half the shrines, and I think they're really good. All right, thanks, Nan. Have a good night. Um, so I'd have to do all of them before I can say for sure. But at the moment, they are super duper fun. I think they're like way more creative than what we had to do for Breath of the Wild and everything. But I think they are super cool, and especially what you can do with your new abilities and everything. Super duper cool. Some of the puzzles are really, really good. Like, man, that took me a second to think about it. Some of them are really, really fun. Like, oh, wow, I can see how I can use my new ability, and it's super cool. And some of them are so easy. It's like, I understand this was made so like a 5th grade or like a 5-year-old could figure it out, but it's like, some of them are actually, it's like, I don't know how the developer wanted me to do this, but this is the way I'm going to do it. And that's usually what I do. I'm sure they would actually be pretty hard if I was trying to figure it out the way the developer intended it to be figured out. But like trying to get the mechanics to work correctly sometimes is pretty hard. But but yeah. So sometimes I try to challenge myself and do that. The way the world is basically designed around these abilities, just like they were in Breath of the Wild. So they had to fundamentally change so many parts, so many things about the world, because now you don't have those abilities anymore. You don't have your ice thing. You don't have your bombs. You don't have your magnet. You don't have your stop time thingy and like hit it a bunch of times. No, you have a bunch of different things. So they had to design the world with these things in mind, so you can still get around the world and still do these things. and I think they did a really good job with it. I don't think I think the master hand is so much better than the magnet thing ever was, because you can use it on a lot more things. Like pretty much anything that can move, you can use it on it, as long as it's not like a living thing. And it's just phenomenal. I think it works really well, and it just seems really good. The sticking thing is the thing. It doesn't work really well most of the time, but when it works well, it's really fun and it really works. The stop reverse time thing is also, it's cool. You can choose so many things. I think they just forgot they had it in there. It's either this was the way it was supposed to be done, or they just forgot it was in there, and you can choose so many things with the reverse time thing. And then of course the ceiling thing. The ceiling thing. I just need, if you're coming into this and you're like, oh man, I want to get the game now. Just remember you can go through ceilings. Okay, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to remember. You need to remember it often. So now we talked about the shrines. Let's talk more about the towers. So I prefer the old ones. I really liked climbing up them, and how some of them you weren't really able to do them until you later in the game because you didn't have enough stamina. I remember there was one, you either had to have stamina food, or you had to have like all the climbing gear, or you just had to come back later because it was just a vertical climb the whole way up. And I thought that was really cool. And this one, it was like I unlocked all of them today. Um, and I think the only one that was a challenge for me trying to figure out how to do it was because you had to go through the ceiling and do it. But then there was one other that you had to do that, and I remembered it, and I was like, oh, that's really easy. But otherwise, I thought it's pretty goofy how they work, and like, but I understand why they have to do it that way because of the sky stuff. But it's still at the same time is pretty freaking goofy, man. Um, yeah. Just remember, if you're going into this blind, remember the ceiling OP ability. It's so OP, and it will help. It'll save you a headache later. So I've only done one dungeon at the time of this podcast. Even today, I played it for like another 5 hours, 6 hours today, or something like that, and I still only got I hadn't gone onto a new dungeon. I think tomorrow I will be going out to a new one, so we'll see how that goes. It was interesting. It wasn't like anything like the usual dungeons from previous games. And it didn't even feel like a Breath of the Wild dungeon to me. Um, it felt completely different to me. But of course, I haven't played a Breath of the Wild dungeon in years. And I haven't played a regular dungeon, like a regular one. But this one, it was like, at least it was themed this time. It was like I went to the air one, and like everything was air themed, and like the whole thing was air themed and everything. It was pretty cool. I remember in the previous ones, it was like the only thing that was themed about it was like it was in a bird or something. This one, it was like actually it was really cool, and you had to use your flying and stuff to get around and actually do things. It was pretty neat, and not to spoil anything, the boss was super cool, but weird at the same time. So going back to the dungeon, how to get there, it took me freaking forever. It took me as long to beat the dungeon as it took me to get there, just because I forgot abilities. Forgetting abilities is fun and everything, but remember your abilities, learn them, love them. That's all I gotta say. But getting there was like, it was just an adventure itself. Besides that one point, it still would have taken me over half an hour to get there, and getting there was super fun too. And then they give you like shrines on the way. So you can, if you fall off, you can come back up and get it and everything. Because this is the wind one, you go up high in the sky. That's not a spoiler. Back to the boss. The boss was interesting. Nothing like a boss I can remember. I would say it was most similar to a boss in Twilight Princess. But only in like the design of the boss, but not how like you beat the boss. The way you beat the boss was very new, and I really appreciate that. Even after 25 years of Zelda, they're coming up with new things, of new ways of how you have to beat these bosses. And especially I think it's really hard to do that in the new Tears of the Kingdom style of games, because you don't get like a hook shot. You don't get your hook shot in the thing, and that's how you beat the old dungeons. Like you got the item, and that's how you beat them. Like you were supposed to use the whip to beat the thing underneath the dragon in Wind Waker. You had to use the iron boots in the water boss, in like pretty much any of them. You know what I'm saying. You had to use the arrows in the water boss and Ocarina of Time and everything. You know what I'm saying. They can't design it around that because they don't know where you're going to be in that point in the story. So they pretty much have to design it around at any point in the story. You could go in there with absolutely no items, and you still have to be able to beat it. Now, of course, nobody's going to be doing that, but somebody will, and somebody will be like, "Huh." They have to be able to do that, and they have to be. Still has to be a challenge, even if they have the best items in the game. I think the easiest way to do that is just make it scale, but I don't think it scales. So the way they did it was really interesting and really cool. I just wish I had a few more items before I went into it, and then it would have made it better. But I was still able to get through it. I think the puzzle was pretty original. Yeah, you don't get any keys and such, and everything. One of them was super cool because it was hidden in plain sight. You see it all the time, and you're like, man, how do I get there? And it clicks to you at the end of the thing. You're like, oh, I have to get it to it this way. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. Um, so I would say the first dungeon was pretty fun. The first dungeon was pretty good. Um, I had pretty low expectations going into the dungeons just because of how much everybody shit on them in Breath of the Wild. And Breath of the Wild's dungeons weren't the best, I would say. But they're definitely not the worst. There's pretty bad dungeons out there throughout the 3D Zelda history, and especially throughout the 2D Zelda history, seeing as all of them suck in comparison. But, we're not going to get into that 2D over 3D or whatnot. The overworld. Let's talk more about the overworld. I mentioned it a little bit before, how we have the 2.5 times whatever. It feels completely different from before. I mean, this is coming from a guy who hasn't played Breath of the Wild in almost 6 years, but it feels completely different to me. It feels completely different to me, and that's what I've seen online. I see discussions, I see memes and everything, people making them, and to me, it definitely feels that way. Like it feels completely different. Like I go over to the Great Plateau, and I was like, wait, the Great Plateau is right here. Wait, this is how the Great Plateau looks now. Wait, I thought the desert. I was like, wait, I thought there wasn't snow over here. Wait, like I thought this was like more like this over here. Oh, okay. They have some familiar faces in there. Like there's the cube is still there, like the prison thing's still there. I think the Colosseum's still there, and things like that. But a lot of the overworld's changed. Like Hyrule Field is completely different than it was before. Um, but I think it still suffers from the same repetitive nature of Breath of the Wild through its enemies. I mean, you'll come up with the same like four variations of enemies when you're going throughout, except they did add a few more. They added what, two, three new enemies, maybe more. Oh no, they definitely added more than that. They added like four or five new enemies. That just that I faced so far. Like five new enemies, but it's still like, I mean, you're facing like the same 10 enemies now instead of five enemies before. Now you're facing the same 10 every time everywhere you go, and they just vary with strength as their color changes as you progress further, and you get more hearts and containers and everything. Um, but I felt like there could have been more still. I mean, they added another 6 years to development. I feel like they could have made a few more enemies, especially since they took the guardians out and everything. I feel like I don't know. I still haven't faced some of the big enemies, and I'm sure there's more enemies as I get to the other zones and everything. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But right now, it's like, oh man, I wish there was a few more. The horse mechanic is still stupid. Um, I wish I could call them from anywhere, man. It's like, it's just The Witcher, man. Like I can call my horse from anywhere. I don't have to go. I know it's not realistic. I know it takes away from the immersion. But man, I just don't want to fucking walk everywhere, and I don't want to go to all the stables to get my horse to do something. It's really freaking annoying. And I wish I could just, like, I get it, like, if you're close enough, you can call them and they'll come to you, whatever. But it's like I fast travel for a reason. I want to fast travel, and then I want to call my horse. I don't know. I think it's still stupid. It was nice they give you your horses from the first game, so I didn't have to get my amiibos out. So if you have a bunch of horses on your game file, and you're switching to the new Switch or whatever, like the LED and everything, make sure you move over your save file so that you have all your horses in there. I think that's literally the only thing they'll let you keep, which is funny enough. But the map does feel a lot larger. I mean, even the base map, it still feels huge. It's a huge ass map, and I don't care too much about all those. Oh man, it's like this much larger. It feels huge. It takes forever to get to one side, and it took me hours of exploring just to find all the towers, and I'm halfway through the shrines, or like maybe a little less than halfway through the shrines and everything. It's a huge map, and I haven't even explored the underground or most of the Sky Islands. So I'm saying, like, if you're on the fence, you're like, oh, I could just play my Breath of the Wild more. It is 100%. Even if you played the 100% of the original game, even if you 100%ed it, there's a whole lot more to do in this game. I think you'll be pleased, and like as long as you don't get bored with like the repetitive nature of like the fighting and everything, I think you'll like it. I think at this point in the game and my time played, I already have about 20 hours in there, 20 plus hours in it, I think so far. Um, and I think I could easily get 200 hours out of this game if I was trying to 100% it, unless I looked up guides, of course. If I wanted to 100% it, like truly get all the Korok seeds, get all the shrines, get all the underworld stuff, get all the main world stuff, and get all the upper stuff and everything, get all the caves, get everything, it would take me forever. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to look up some things eventually, like once we get down to the very end. But I think I can easily get 100 to 200 hours out of this game if I really really tried. If like I want to upgrade everything, I want to get all the best weapons, I want to get all the best food, I want to get all the best potions, everything. I'm pretty sure I can get up there if I really tried. Um, so yeah, because on writing I was only at 12 hours ish, 12 plus hours, and now I'm at like 20 plus hours. Um, I think I can see myself playing this way more than I did Cyberpunk, and I am way more into like that cyberpunk kind of world, and everything than like in the past worlds. But I am having way more fun with Breath of the Wild than I had with Cyberpunk. I'm just saying that because it's like a recent one that I played. It's been so long since I played the previous Breath of the Wild and uh, The Witcher and everything. So it's like really hard for me to pull back and like think back to those ones. But I did play the Cyberpunk 2077 recently, and I would say that this one just absolutely destroys it right now. By the way, that review will be coming out soon on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe, like, and come back later to check that out. Cyberpunk 2077 review, by the way. Story. If you didn't like Breath of the Wild story, and if you don't like non-linear stories, you will not like Breath of the Wild story. If you don't like, oh man, this is what's gonna happen. Like, oh man, I know Zelda goes missing and I have to find Zelda. You're not gonna like the story of the game. And that's okay. It's not like the story doesn't have to be amazing, but I think what they're doing with a very simple story is really good. I don't think the whole point of the game is to like the story for this game. It's not a story narrative game, you know. It's I think what they've done with the story is pretty good, but I don't think that's the whole point of this game. If you want a really really good story, go play The Witcher. You know, go play that 10-year-old game. You know, go read all the books, go read all the lore and everything. Zelda has never been a like like an amazing story. They've had some really good stories here and there, but those were all like linear stories. These non-linear games, if you don't like a non-linear story, you will not like the story. And I'm sorry, that's just like how it's going to be. And that is one of the things that suffers from it not being a linear game. Is it's really hard to tell a linear story in a non-linear game unless you only tell the story through the main story, the main like quest. And even doing that, it's like, you have all these side quests to go find all the things, and it tells you so much about the story. And it's like, well, I found like the 15th cutscene before I found the 6th cutscene, and I got something spoiled, like major spoiler. And I was like, well, shit, but at least I know, like, how does it get up to there for me. And I think that happened in Breath of the Wild too. I can see them fixing that. Just like when you pick up the tiers, just give it to you in order. Don't give me tier 15 first, bro. Yeah, I don't know. That's just me. I guess like it makes sense with like how the way they're stylized on the ground and everything, but it's like, come on, bro. I do think it's better than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, it was like, they're different. Yeah, Dona Wild. No, I see what you're saying. Lol, agreed. Um, um, Breath of the Wild story was different. They put you in a thing, and all you knew was that you fucked up and you had to save Zelda. That's all, literally all you knew. And then you went out and you figured out what happened and like what happened to everybody in the time you were gone and everything. This one, we already know what everything happened pretty much. We weren't gone for that long. But now we're learning about everything that happened in the super past, where Zelda went to. We're learning all these other things built on the knowledge of Breath of the Wild, and I think for me that just makes it a lot. That just makes it a lot better. Personally, I think the voice acting is better this time around too. Um, fuck all the haters who think Zelda's a bad voice actor. I think she did really good. Um, she got bullied really really hard when the first Breath of the Wild. You think it's bad? No, no. It's okay to think it's bad, but it's she got bullied so hard at the beginning of the thing. She almost she like almost quit everything and like stopped voice acting and doing everything. And I mean, she doesn't sound bad. I think she sounds fine. That's how Zelda sounds. She doesn't sound like a 70-year-old British grandma. She sounds British. I don't know if that's a good choice. Oh my goodness, whatever. Um, but it's like, in Cyberpunk, you didn't learn anything about the story unless you did the one main quest. And this one, I learned so much just by exploring, by doing stuff, and you learn more about the story. And it's like, there's no way you can do that and not like have it not be linear. I don't know. And from writing, I do know most of the story now. I still don't know everything. I haven't done all the dungeons and I haven't began and everything yet. But from where I am right now, I still don't think I'm like. I think I actually have half the storylines now. So we'll see how the rest of it changes. But so right now, I think it's fine. I think I'll go at the end. I'll go back through and I'll watch every single thing and it'll be fine. But I think it's fine right now. It's not the best story. I think it's better than Breath of the Wilds. But that was one thing people like shit on Breath of the Wild. It was like it's not a cinematic masterpiece in its storytelling. It can't be a 10 out of 10 game. And I was like, no, it's still. I thought Breath of the Wild was a 10 out of 10 game. At the time when I first played it. Now if I played it right now, would it be the 10 out of 10 game? No, but it is still one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah. Is it still one of the best games ever made? Yeah. And I think this one's going to sit there right next to it. It doesn't have to have the best story ever. Let's talk about graphics. I like cell shading. I love cell shaded graphics. I love cell shaded graphics. I know they're not for everybody. I know not everybody likes them, but I love cell shaded and I love what they did with it. The thing that I appreciated with it is it all looks the same and it's consistent. It was not made in Microsoft Paint. Okay, to be fair, the lighting on the first island is terrible and it makes everything look bad. But out of there, once you get to like the shaded places and the dark places, it looks much better. To be fair, so this is going to go into my Cyberpunk review. But in Cyberpunk 2077, you don't know what character model you were going to get at any point in the game. Johnny Silverhand would have completely different textures and character model at different points in the game, and it would look horrendous. Some of his character models were atrocious. And it was like he's one of the main characters, and you guys are treating him like this. And it's like you see yourself in a mirror sometimes, and it's like, bro, this is the main character, and I look like terrible shit. Your buddy at the beginning of the game, his face is super detailed, and then you look at the rest of him, and it's like literally just like no texture on the rest of his body. It's insane. Cell shaded graphics is good. I think they have done better with other cell shaded games that they have made. I don't think it's their best cell shaded, but I think it's still good. I still think it's good. Their lighting is, I think, their weakest point in this game. I think their lighting is very, very bad, and I don't know what changed between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But I think the lighting just looks worse, personally. And if you're mad that the game is 720 to 1080p, 30 frames per second, and you were expecting a 4K 60 FPS masterpiece going into this, you're just stupid. If you were expecting anything other than Breath of the Wild's graphics, you were stupid. The Switch, when it was released, was already an outdated console. It is not even as powerful as the PS4 and the Xbox One. It was barely more powerful than the PS3. It wasn't even more powerful than the Wii U, and the Wii U wasn't even as powerful as it was not even as powerful as the PS3 and stuff. It is an old console. It's nearing the end of its life cycle. We will get a Switch 2 announcement soon. It is nearing the end of its cycle. If you want to play 4K 60 FPS, go buy a PC and emulate it. Illegally emulate it. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do that. I only believe in emulating games that are no longer for sale. But if you expected anything more than that, I understand it's a $70 game. I understand it's a AAA title. They did really good with the hardware they have. If this was on, if they developed it for the PC or like a PS5 or something, it would look so much better. I understand it looks very smooth. That's the cell shading style of making a game. It's very smooth, and the textures, there's not many textures. But I think what they did with it, it still looks really good. But yeah, if you want 4K 60 FPS or anything better than that, or around there, 1440, whatever, just go buy a different console and go play different games, because this game is not for you. Or emulate it. I do not condone the emulation. I'm sorry. I don't think, since the GameCube, graphics have not been a strong point of Nintendo. Since the GameCube, it has not been a strong suit for Nintendo. They don't care if it looks good or bad, as long as it's fun to play. And that's why I'm saying Tears of the Kingdom is a fun as fuck game to play. It is so much fun. It's been the most fun game I've played in quite a long time, actually. I thought I was having fun with Cyberpunk, and I'm playing this game, and I'm like, holy moly, this game's so much fun. I'm looking back at Cyberpunk, and I'm like, man, that game maybe actually was like a chore for me compared to this game. This game is actually fun. Is it as fun as Breath of the Wild? I don't know. But let's talk about that a little bit. So here are my final thoughts and my score and everything. Overall, I'm having a very, very fun time with this game, and more than I thought I would have originally. I set my expectations super low because I was like, it's the $70 DLC. I'm not going to get my expectations up. It's just going to be the same game with some new skin over it, whatever. Over 6 years ago in 2016 into 2017, I would watch the Breath of the Wild trailer every day waiting for the release of the game. I had that stupid Imagine Dragons song stuck in my head because I'd watch it every day. But this time I didn't. I watched him one time. I was like, oh, Breath of the Tears of the Kingdom trailer. I'll watch it. My hype wasn't nearly as high for this game, and I didn't want to get my hopes up for a $70 DLC. After having played it, it's definitely not the same as Breath of the Wild, and it does not deserve to be called the $70 DLC, in my opinion. It delivers on completely different aspects of the original game. In the original, we were exploring a brand new world with zero information or prior experience. In this game, we are exploring a changed world with all the information of the previous game. This information is actually a crutch, as you have to learn how to deal with all the new mechanics and all the new threats and all the new tools you are given in the game. The new spin on the world, as well as the two new layers of the world, under and above, is what the game really needed. I thought it was just going to be like some sky islands here and there, and that's all going to be. But the underworld as well as the vast amount of changes they made to the main world, it's just a completely different game. Any game is good, and this I'll stand and I'll die on this rock. Any game is good when you can play for 6 hours and it feels like 2, or it feels like 1. You can play for 8 hours and you're like, wait, I thought it was 2 o'clock. It's actually 10 o'clock. That's just a good game. It might not be a perfect game, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be fun. and it was a fun game. For me, graphics don't always have to be the best thing for me, unless it's a graphics oriented game. If my game's like, we have the best graphics and you have to have the best hardware to run our best graphics, like Cyberpunk, and they say they have the best graphics, I'm going to rip into them when their graphics suck. Tears of the Kingdom never once said anything about graphics. They never once said anything about graphics. So I'm not going to tear into them. Is it passable by today's standards? Sure. I think it's passable. They do better than a lot of other AAA titles who get the PS5 as their base system. That has way more power than the Switch. You could probably run like 4 Switches on one PS5. That's how strong it is compared. And they look absolutely terrible compared to Breath of the Wild. And it's like crazy. Or Tears of the Kingdom. But again, if you want those good graphics, then this game isn't for you unless you like cel shaded graphics. But I don't think that should affect the score unless it's advertised for the game. Just like in my review for Cyberpunk, the graphics will affect its review because they have a whole thing about the ray tracing and everything and all of it in there. Yeah, okay, 5 out of 10 because you hate Nintendo, sure. I haven't met a single bug. Holy shit, I'm actually thinking about it right now. I haven't met a single bug yet in this game. Have I met a single bug? I didn't even think about that. I can't go 15 minutes. Which clip? The clip I made today, though, that wasn't a bug. I can't go 15 minutes in Cyberpunk without seeing a glitch. Or a bug. The clip I made today wasn't a bug. That was a really cool thing that happened, and I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. I honestly don't think I've ran into a bug. I can't think of any. Oh, no. See, I have ran into one, and it was more of like a feature than a bug. If you're swimming and you're about to fall off, this is not how it worked in Breath of the Wild as far as I remember. If you're about to run out, if you climb up on the cliff and you fall off, you gain some stamina back, and I don't think that's how it worked in Breath of the Wild. I'm pretty sure if you just fell in Breath of the Wild, you would die. So I think that's the only one I came into. And other than that, but that's not a game breaking bug, and that's like more of a oh cool, I cheesed the system sort of bug. It's not like, oh, my character just flew 50 feet in the air for no reason kind of bug. You know what I'm saying? But that's insane because in my Cyberpunk review that I'm writing, it's like I can't go 15 minutes without seeing a bug, and I didn't even think about that with Tears of the Kingdom. That's insane. All right, well, back to it. So still talking about it. I think the story is better than Breath of the Wild, but it still isn't the best, and it suffers from the same weak points as Breath of the Wild. Although I do think they added onto the weak points, but I don't think they added onto them enough. The map is great. The map is fun. So much fun to explore. The shrines are better. The towers are okay. And this is gonna be my score as of right now. This is gonna be my score. I will update it when I beat the whole game. I do everything, and I write my actual review for the game. I will come up with my actual score for the game. But my current score, wait for it. Can I get any guesses in chat of what score I'm gonna give it? I do my score for this one. I did it out of 100. So give me a two numbered one, something out of 100. I mean, 8 would just be 80 out of 100. So you think you gave me 80 out of 100, 7 point? I give it a 92. Right now, I give it a 92. My based opinion is straight facts. Straight facts. I don't like it. I don't like it when can't say I can say that. It is a 92. It is a 92 as of right now. My opinion is a fact, and it is the best opinion you've heard today. It's based, it's grounded in reality, and it's amazing. Okay? I give it a 92 out of 100. For all the reasons I listed up above. You can agree with it or disagree with it. Unsubbing, blasphemy. I need your $250 a month, Astronis. Please don't do this to me, man. I'm broke. I'm trying to buy the Rivendell set by the end of the year, man. 92 out of 100. It might change later. This heavily depends on. My God, bro. I can go through and say why I took out the 8 points, but I will do that in the full review after I beat the game. I will say exactly why I took points out of the 100. Because a 100 out of 100 for me is a perfect game. I don't think any game ever made is a perfect game, but there are some that have gotten close. And those ones that have gotten close deserve that 10 out of 10. When Breath of the Wild came out, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. It was my favorite game. I thought, Breath of the Wild was the perfect game, and Witcher 3 was also like a perfect game. They were super fun to me back then. I think now if I went back and played them, I would have given Breath of the Wild maybe like a 98 and like The Witcher like a 97. But I'd have to go back and think about it. Replay it and everything. But right now, I think it's a 92. And that's my opinion. That is the correct opinion. And I think if you play this game, you will have fun. Unless you hate this style of game. Who let him cook? What? No, my opinion is based in facts. It is amazing. Now, stop. Oh, wow. Okay. When my Cyberpunk review comes out, I'm not going to be very lenient with their score, unfortunately. I need to think more about it. I need to go. I finished most of the script, and I need to go back, review it, and add more things as I remember things later on. And the same thing with my Breath of the Wild or my Tears of the Kingdom review. I think my Tears of the Kingdom review is at least going to be long. It's going to be a long review, and I'm going to talk about a lot of aspects of it. And then I'll probably do is I'll have a long review and I'll have a short review. I think the long review will have spoilers in it, and the short review will not have spoilers in it. I think that's what I'm going to do. The Cyberpunk review, I think, is going to be a spoiler-free one. It's just going to be a short one, just because it wasn't as good of a game as I thought it was going to be, unfortunately. Does it deserve Game of the Year? Yes. Right now, out of every game that has come out from here to May 16th, it is the best game that has come out this year so far. 100% the best game that's come out this year. Unfortunately, there is not many good games that have come out this year. Name one better game that has come out here this year than Tears of the Kingdom. I'll wait. Survivor is not a good game. Jedi Survivor is not a better game. Yeah, I'll ban you for that. I'll ban you for that. Honkai Star Rail came out like last year, I thought. Or is that the brand new one? I don't know. Their names all sound the fucking same. I don't know, man. I'm sorry if I hurt your opinions with my facts, my based facts and opinions over here. But my opinion is absolute and it's amazing. Okay. Of course, it's up for change. I think a lot of the score depends on how repetitive the dungeons are, how repetitive the underground is, how good the final boss is, how good the rest of the shrines are, the Koroks, the rest of the caves, and how it ends. I still have so much of it right now, but as I've played right now, it's sitting at a 92. I would say even after playing it today, I'm still sitting at a 92. I'm gonna lose a lot. There's 3 of you watching. How am I gonna lose a lot of followers? Am I gonna lose 3 followers? One of them being my girlfriend. Damn. I guess 3 out of 177 is a lot. You guys are so funny. Yeah, so this is my initial score. I will come out with my full final review after I beat the game. And what I'll do is I'll come out with a short version that's spoiler free and a long version that'll go deep into spoilers and everything and talk about the things I liked and the things I didn't like about everything in the game. All right. That's going to be it. So thank you all for coming and watching the 10th most based episode of the Llama Drum podcast, talking about the rating of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I plan on making a separate video for the review itself after I finish the game and gather together all my full final thoughts. If this podcast isn't taken down by Nintendo about talking about their video game, you can watch it on YouTube and Spotify. Or if you want to watch it live, you can come check me out on Twitch where you can argue with me in real time. All the links to everything are down in my Twitch description, so please go check it out and leave a follow. And drop a subscription and a like over here on the YouTube and the whatever Spotify does. My Discord has links to everything, so make sure you go there. And thank you all for coming again, and I will catch you all next time. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching, even if you didn't agree with me, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your night.